there is a light bulb still burning in a fire station in California. It was turned on in 1901. More than a century later, it's still glowing. Now, take a second and look around your house. Look at your phone, your laptop, your headphones, your washing machine. Be honest with yourself. How many of the things you bought in the last 5 years are already broken, replaced, or basically unusable? Your phone still technically turns on, but the battery dies by lunchtime. Your laptop works, but the fan screams like a jet engine, and it can't handle a software update. Your headphones snap right at the hinge. Your printer refuses to print because it doesn't like the ink cartridge you bought. And somewhere along the way, you accepted this as normal. You told yourself, technology just moves faster now. Things are more complicated. That's just how modern products are. But here's the uncomfortable thought. What if none of this is accidental? What if your stuff isn't failing because engineers forgot how to build things, but because someone, somewhere, decided it should fail? Not eventually, not by chance, but on schedule. Think about how strange this is. We can send satellites into orbit. We can land rockets back on floating platforms in the ocean. We can edit DNA. But somehow we can't make a washing machine that lasts 10 years? That contradiction should bother you, because it points to a much bigger story. A story about how modern products are designed. A story about how ownership quietly turned into rental. And a story about how your money is being drained, not all at once, but slowly, predictably, invisibly. This isn't about bad luck, and it's not about nostalgia. It's about a decision that was made a long time ago that still controls what you buy today. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Most people explain this problem in the same way. They say modern products break because they're more advanced. More chips, more software, more features. And on the surface, that explanation feels reasonable. A smartphone today is basically a supercomputer. A washing machine has sensors, control boards, Wi-Fi. A car is a rolling data center. So, of course, things break more often, right? Except that explanation falls apart the moment you actually look at history. Because the first products to mysteriously start failing early weren't complicated at all. They were light bulbs, simple glass, a filament, electricity, no software, no updates, no complexity. And yet, at the exact moment companies figured out how to make light bulbs last longer, they suddenly stopped. Not because they couldn't do it, but because doing it was bad for business. That's the key idea most people miss. The problem isn't that corporations struggle to build durable products. The problem is that durability is often unprofitable. If you sell something that lasts 30 years, you sell it once. If you sell something that lasts 3 years, you sell it 10 times. And once you see products through that lens, a lot of modern design flaws start to make sense. The sealed battery, the glued screen, the proprietary screw, the part that costs more to repair than the product itself. Those aren't accidents, they're decisions. Decisions that quietly change the relationship between you and the things you buy. You don't really own them anymore, you temporarily access them. And when they fail, the system gently nudges you toward the same solution every time. Don't fix it. Don't question it. Just buy a new one. What makes this especially dangerous is that it doesn't feel like theft. There's no single moment where money is taken from you. No obvious scam. It's slow, incremental, normalized. A phone here, a laptop there, a subscription you forget to cancel. A repair you're told isn't worth it. Individually, none of these feel catastrophic. Together, they quietly reshape your entire financial life. And the scary part? This isn't a modern problem. This system was designed nearly a century ago, very deliberately, by some of the most powerful companies on Earth. To understand how we ended up here, we have to go back to a room in Geneva in the 1920s. Because that's where the rules were written. December 1924, Geneva, Switzerland. No press, no public announcement. Just a quiet meeting between men who controlled light. General Electric from the United States, Philips from the Netherlands, Osram from Germany, and several other manufacturers who together owned nearly the entire global light bulb market. They weren't there to innovate. They were there to solve a problem. Sales were collapsing, not because people didn't need light, but because engineers had done their job too well. By the early 1920s, light bulbs regularly lasted 2,500 hours. Some lasted even longer. From a human perspective, this was incredible. You could install a bulb and forget about it for years. From a corporate perspective, it was a nightmare. Once every home had light and once those bulbs refused to die, the market saturated. Revenue flattened. Factories slowed. Shareholders panicked. So instead of asking, how do we make something better? They asked a darker question. How do we make it fail on schedule? That meeting produced something called the Phoebus Cartel. On paper, it looked like a standards organization. In reality, it was a global agreement to engineer failure. The cartel decided that no light bulb should last longer than 1,000 hours. Not around 1,000. Exactly 1,000. To enforce this, they created a centralized testing authority in Switzerland. Every member company had to submit bulb samples for testing. If a factory produced bulbs that lasted too long, they were fined. Think about how backwards that is. Engineers were punished for excellence. Factories were penalized for durability. So they did what they were forced to do. They thinned the filaments. They adjusted the gas mixtures. They redesigned bulbs to burn hotter and die faster. By the 1940s, the 1,000-hour bulb had become the global standard. Not because physics demanded it, not because technology required it, but because a cartel decided longevity was bad for profits. The cartel eventually dissolved during World War II, but the idea it introduced was far more dangerous than the organization itself. It proved something revolutionary. You could increase profits by making products worse. You could create demand by manufacturing decay. And once that lesson was learned, it didn't stay in the lighting industry. It escaped. And it started infecting everything else. The Phoebus Cartel proved something powerful. You didn't need to sell better products to make more money. You just needed to sell more products. But there was a problem. Light bulbs are passive. They burn out quietly. Other products couldn't fail that way. If a car suddenly broke after 2 years, people would revolt. Brands would collapse. So the strategy evolved. Instead of breaking the machine, they started breaking your satisfaction with it. The man who perfected this idea was Alfred Sloan, the head of General Motors in the 1920s. Ford's Model T was everything consumers wanted: cheap, reliable, easy to repair. And that was exactly the problem. Once someone bought a Model T, they kept it. They fixed it. They didn't buy another. Sloan looked at the Phoebus model and realized physical failure wasn't the only lever. Perception was. So he invented annual model changes. Every year the car still worked, but it looked old. New headlights, new colors, new trims. If you drove last year's model, everyone could see it. The car didn't betray you. Your status did. This was psychological obsolescence, and it was far more effective than mechanical failure. Because now, the pressure didn't come from the product. It came from you. From comparison. From ego. From the fear of falling behind. Fast forward to today, and you see the same pattern everywhere. The iPhone still works, but the camera bump changes. The edges get flatter, the colors shift. Does it transform your life? No, but it signals something. I have the new one. That signal is worth billions of dollars. And now, psychological obsolescence has merged with digital control. Products don't just look old, they feel old. A software update slows your phone. An app stops supporting your device. A feature gets locked behind a paywall. Nothing is technically broken, but everything is nudging you toward the same conclusion. It's time to upgrade. What began as a conspiracy in a Geneva boardroom has become an invisible force shaping your daily decisions. You aren't being forced, you're being guided, softly, relentlessly. And the most effective part? You blame yourself. You think you're impatient, materialistic, weak. But this system was designed by people who understood human psychology better than you ever will. And once software entered the equation, this model didn't just evolve, it exploded. Here's the part nobody explains clearly. Planned obsolescence isn't just annoying, it's expensive. Not in a dramatic, one-time way, but in a quiet, compounding way. Let's put numbers on it. Take a laptop. You buy it for $1,000. It's thin. It's glued shut. The battery is soldered. The RAM is non-upgradable. After about 3 years, the battery degrades. Replacing it should cost $50. But because of the design, the repair costs $700. So you don't repair it, you replace it. That design choice just cost you $950. Now multiply that across your life. A phone every 3 years, headphones every 2, a smartwatch, a tablet, a vacuum, a coffee machine with a proprietary pod system. Conservatively, that's $3,000, $5,000 per decade you didn't need to spend. And that's just electronics. Now add subscriptions, Adobe at $50 a month, that's $600 a year. Over 10 years, $6,000, heated seats in a car, cloud storage, features that used to be included. You stop paying, you lose access, you don't own the tool, you rent your own productivity. This is the modern version of the Phoebus strategy. In 1924, they shortened the life of a filament. In 2025, they shortened the life of access. And the real damage isn't just financial, it's psychological. Because when everything is disposable, you stop maintaining. You stop repairing, you stop learning how things work. You become dependent. A dependent consumer is the most profitable kind. There's a term economists use for this system. They call it the replacement economy. Your broken stuff keeps GDP growing. If everyone bought products that lasted 20 years, factories would slow. Stock prices would fall. Entire industries would collapse. So the system quietly punishes durability. It rewards waste. Your frustration isn't a flaw, it's fuel. You are the cash flow that keeps this machine alive. And once you see that, the question changes. It's no longer, why do things break? It becomes, how do I stop bleeding money? So are we stuck? Are we doomed to keep buying garbage forever just to keep the economy breathing? Not exactly, but escaping this system requires something uncomfortable. You have to opt out. There's a movement growing quietly in the background called right to repair. At its core, it's simple. If you buy something, you should be allowed to fix it. No proprietary screws, no locked software, no artificial parts shortages. But beyond laws and policy, there's a deeper shift happening. Some people call it buy it for life. I think of it as economic self-defense. It means buying fewer things, but buying things that refuse to die. When you need a vacuum, don't buy the glossy plastic one from the big box store. Buy the commercial grade 1 hotels use. It costs twice as much. It lasts 10 times longer. When you buy a laptop, check the repairability score. If you can't open it with a screwdriver, walk away. If the company won't sell you spare parts, they aren't selling a product. They're selling a trap. The same logic applies everywhere. Older cars with fewer chips, cast iron instead of non-stick. Used tools from a time when engineers weren't punished for strength. And you have to audit your digital life too. Reject subscriptions when you can. Use open source software. Own copies of your work. Every time you fix something instead of replacing it, you keep your money. Every time you refuse an unnecessary upgrade, you break the cycle. These aren't dramatic acts. They're small, quiet, boring, and that's why they work. The Phoebus Cartel may be gone, but its philosophy is alive and well. Every hinge that snaps, every battery that's sealed, every feature locked behind a monthly fee. Those weren't accidents, they were choices. And the only way to stop paying for those choices is to start making your own. Be the person who fixes the toaster. Be the person who drives the 10-year-old car. Be the glitch in their algorithm. Because the most dangerous thing to a system built on waste is a person who refuses to waste. If this video changed the way you look at your stuff, share it with someone who keeps complaining about their phone. And if you want more deep dives into the invisible systems that quietly shape your life, Make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one.